Morphology of Angiosperms, the fifth chapter in the PUC first year biology. After studying the classification in the first unit, we have studied different groups according to Whitaker's classification, 5 kingdoms and also the divisions under plant kingdom and animal kingdom. Now under plant kingdom, we have seen that algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms are the groups, they are the divisions which come under plant kingdom. Under this, angiosperms are the highly evolved plants which we come across in the plant kingdom. So coming to the study of angiosperms, today we will be studying the morphology of angiosperms. So we are going to study morphology and anatomy of angiosperms in this unit, the second unit, structural organization of plants and animals. Now in morphology of angiosperms, morphology deals with the external features, the outward expressions. So the outward characters of the organism is referred as morphology. So an angiosperm plant, we have already studied, it is a highly developed plant. It is having a well organized root system, stem, leaves, flowers, fruits and seeds. That is the structure, that is in the angiosperm. So in the morphology, we are studying the outward features of the angiosperm. So what features, what expressions, characters we see externally, so that we have to study in this chapter. For example, root, stem, leaves, flower, fruits and seeds. So all these are the parts which we study, which we come across in the angiosperms. So first we shall study about the root. So what is root, functions of root and types of root systems and other related aspects of root. So the root is the underground part of the angiosperm plant. So it is underground because it is positively geotropic in nature. That means it always grows towards the soil along the gravitational force. So along the gravity it will grow into the soil and it will never grow upwards above the soil. That is the organ of the angiosperm. Then it is the organ which is developed from a part of the seed which is called as radicle. So when the seed gets germinated, when we put a seed in a soil, what actually happens, we see the formation of the root and we see the formation of the stem, leaves and all that, shoot system. So the root system originates from the embryo of the seed, which is the part of the radicle. The embryo consists of radicle and plumule. The radical part of the embryo gives rise to the root. The plumule part of the embryo gives rise to the shoot, that is the stem and leaves. So the root is the organ which originates from the radicle. So it is the general meaning, and it is positively geotropic, always grows towards the soil. Now this can be demonstrated with the help of a simple experiment called as the clinostat. So that means when we place a potted plant in a horizontal position, that means parallel to the ground. So potted plant placed horizontally, so the stem is parallel to the soil surface, horizontal. So when we keep this, we observe that the stem will bend upwards and grow towards the light. That is what we see. But the same thing in the opposite part, that is the root which is present in the soil. If we observe the root growth, that root growth will be towards the ground, or it will be geotropic movement. That means always root is geotropic, positively geotropic, and whereas stem is negatively geotropic. So this is what is the root. Next, functions of root. So there are two important functions of root. But there are some other general functions. For example, the root helps in absorption of water and minerals from the soil. So every plant, whatever type of angiosperm it is, so the root system absorb the main or the primary function of the root is to absorb the water and minerals from the soil. And another function is it helps for a proper anchorage of the plant to the soil. So the plant is properly fixed to the soil particles with the help of the root and its branches. So when we see a plant which is standing straight or erect, it is because of the perfect root system of that plant. So the root system, even if there is a wind, it will not fall down. It is because the root system or the roots has a proper fixation or a proper anchorage to the soil particles, so that the plant is placed in erect position. That is another function of the root. So absorption and proper anchorage, fixation is the main primary functions. And sometimes there are also other functions of the root. The root may secrete certain hormones in some cases, or also it may produce certain other substances, but not always. In most cases we find the secretion of the certain even enzymes, certain hormones, or like that certain roots will do that functions. But the main primary functions is the absorption and anchorage of the plant. Then coming to the types of the root system. So there are two types of root system in the angiosperms overall. So we are studying the angiosperms here. So basically there are two types of root system, the taproot system and the fibrous root system. Of course there is one more third one. So the taproot system, the fibrous root system and adventitious root system. These are the three types of root systems. So in the taproot system we see this in all dicot. Here what happens, the root, there is a main root which is called as the primary root, which originates from the base of the stem. Now this primary root which originates, it grows indefinitely. It is having indefinite growth, and this primary root produces branches which are called as secondary roots. So these are the secondary roots which are produced from the primary root. So primary root is a single and it is having indefinite growth. The primary root gives rise to many branches which are called as the secondary roots. So there are numerous secondary roots, but there is a single primary root. And these secondary roots again further branch to give rise to what are called as the tertiary roots. So the tertiary roots are the branches of the secondary roots, and all these roots, primary, secondary, tertiary roots, so they form a kind of branched system or a network like inside the soil, and all these are having indefinite growth, primary, secondary and tertiary. This is the called as taproot system. But in the fibrous root system it is somewhat different. There is a primary root that originates from the stem, that is from the base of the stem. Of course the root is originating from the radicle. So when the seed germinates, the radicle of the embryo in the seed, it gives rise to it develops into the root system. So in dicot and monocot we see the same thing. So the primary root, when it grows or originates from the stem, it is having a definite growth. As in case of taproot, it does not grow indefinitely, but in taproot the primary root will be continuously growing, indefinite growth. So that is why the taproot system grows deep into the soil. But in a fibrous root system, the primary root has a definite growth. Means after a short distance it will stop growing, and also it will remain unbranched. It does not branch. And next what happens, similar kind of roots originate from the stem, base of the stem, which are also similar to the primary roots. So all these roots are similar in appearance and they are unbranched. That is important. So a cluster of unbranched growth roots which are of definite growth, they are originating from the base of the stem. So this is called as fibrous root system. So in taproot the root will branch or will give rise to branches, but in fibrous root system there is a cluster of similar unbranched roots of definite growth. So these roots are not having indefinite growth, and that is why taproot system, which is having very deep into the soil or which grows deep into the soil, whereas fibrous roots do not grow deep into the soil, they are having limited growth. So only up till a short distance they grow and they are not growing deep into the soil. That is, in all monocots we find fibrous root system. That is what we see in this monocots. So this adventitious root system. Next, taproot is the typical of dicot. Fibrous, it is a typical example monocot. All monocots are having a fibrous root system, but adventitious root system we see in some dicots only. So any root which originates other than radical, any part of the plant which gives rise to the root system and other than the radical is called as adventitious roots. So sometimes when the plant germinates, any part of the plant, it may be a stem or it may be any other part of the plant, there the root system develops later, not from the germination stage. So that is adventitious root. Now for example, adventitious roots, they are produced from the stem, from any part of the plant other than the radical. So in the radical the seed germinates. So that radical gives either to taproot system or fibrous root system. Now as the plant develops, it produces the branches and all that. So some parts of some organs of the plant, it gives rise to the adventitious root system. So for example, the roots which originate, for example the banyan tree, the roots, they are all adventitious roots. So this is what are adventitious roots, which are roots that originate from any part of the plant other than radical. These two originate from radical, and these are typical example of dicot, and this is monocot. Here the primary root is indefinite growth and produces branches, secondary roots and further tertiary branches. Here a cluster of similar roots. Of course there is a primary root, that primary root will not be identified. Similar kind of roots originate and form a cluster of roots which are having a definite growth and are unbranched. That is about this root system. Now this root system are of three types. Now next, modifications of root. What are modifications of root? Now already we have studied about the functions of the root. Now the functions of the root I have already mentioned that they are absorption, and then the root also helps in the what we call it as the anchorage of the plant, and in addition to this the root may secrete certain hormones, and also in some plants the root act as a storage organ, as a reserve food material, but that is not compulsorily, but the main primary functions are absorption and fixation of the plant, that is anchorage. Now modifications. Now if the root functions or perform functions other than the normal functions, so normal functions are absorption and fixation. So whenever we say root, its function is to absorb water and minerals, its function is to fix the plant, it gives proper anchorage of to the soil particles to enable the plant stand erect. But if the root performs any other functions, some additional functions, some extra functions other than normal functions, they are called as modifications. So modifications are additional functions or external functions other than the normal functions. So suppose to give an example, if there is a student, so any person, if he does any extra function other than the normal function, it is referred as modification. Now for example, I will take the example of a student. A student, his duty is come to the school, attend the school and give proper attention, and then go back to home and do proper whatever homework is given, isn't it? It is his function, it is his duty. Like that every individual will be having their own functions. Now if that student does any other function other than this study, along with that, it is called as modification. Now suppose if that student, when he comes to school for studies and go back to home, like that it is his duty. But while coming to college and while going to home from college, he may purchase some materials from the shop for his home. It may be vegetables, it may be some other items, it may be some kirani items like that. So like that he will carry them. So it is actually, he has not that function. It is an extra function in addition to being a student. So being a student is he is to attend the school, he is to be attentive in the class and do all the activities which are assigned to him, isn't it? But in addition to that, he will be doing this. He may take away some medicines from the medical shop. That means he has not actually come for that function. It is some extra function he is doing. So like that, roots other than the normal function, if they do that, that is called as modification. Now for example, roots, they do food storage. They store food material. Now food storage, they store food material. For example, the radish and carrot, they are examples for this. Now the radish function is to store root material. These are the one. So in case of carrot, so the roots store food material. So roots, whenever they store food material, of course in addition there is absorption, there is fixation of the plant. In addition to that, the roots store food material. So it is actually the primary root which stores food material here. So on this radish, you can see small roots like this. They are the secondary roots. So but the main root which is there, which has storage, it is the primary root. Similarly, in the carrot also, it is the primary root which stores food material. That is the food storage. Then sometimes the roots will provide support to the plant, to any part of the plant. Now, for example, in case of banyan tree, there the roots provide support. They are called as the prop roots. And even in case of maize, we come across roots which give support to the plant. They are called as the stilt roots. So in case of maize and even in the screw pine and many others, so there the roots give support. So in prop roots what happens? Now in banyan tree, suppose this is the main stem. So these are the branches of the plant. Now in banyan tree what happens? The main stem gives rise to branches. Now these branches, they grow very long, means they grow to a very large size. And these large branches, they give some kind of stress to the main stem, to this main stem. So when the branch gives stress to this, so to reduce the stress or the weight to this main plant, main stem, these branches, they produce roots like this. Now these roots, they do not remain hanging, they do not remain suspended. Instead, they reach the soil and fix to the soil and then give support to that branch. So they give support to that branch, and so that these branches will not give weight on this main stem. So for example, if we keep your hand like this, this hand will be having weight on this part of the body. Again, if you place a pole here and place on that pole, so that means the weight of the hand will be less on the body part. So it will be on that support. So like that, these prop roots, though we see the roots which are hanging there, they do not remain hanging for ever. After some days, after some period, these roots will reach the soil and they will fix roots will fix to the soil and give support to that branch, because those branches are very large and they are very long, and they reduce the weight on this main stem. They are called as the prop roots. They give a kind of support, mechanical support to the branch of the plant, single branch. But in stilt roots what happens? In case of maize, jawar, so you might have seen the jawar plant. So these are the nodes here, like this. It is a monocot plant, and you can see certain roots which are originating from the nodal region of the plant, like this. So these roots, they give support to the main stem. Actually, when you see the lower nodes, these roots will touch the soil like this and grow into the soil. Like. So these also later they will reach the soil and give support to the main stem. So prop roots, they give support to the branch of a plant. Stilt roots, they give support to the main stem which is unbranched. So the main stem which is unbranched, they are supported. So it is just like giving a support to an electric pole. So we have seen that if there is an electric pole, to that another support is given in the diagonal manner. So that means this that is a pole which is placed in a diagonal fashion. It is to give the support to that pole. So that is how stilt roots, they give support to this plant, and that is in case of maize and many other examples we can see. So in maize and also in sugarcane. In sugarcane also we can see such examples, and in screw pine also we can see. Now another is roots perform respiration. they are called as respiratory roots, or they are also called as pneumatophores or respiratory roots. For example, in a plant which is called as rhizophora, and even in a plant called as Avicennia, we see such kind of respiratory roots. So respiratory roots, they do respiration. Now why they do respiration, or what is the purpose of this? In this respiration, what happens? These plants usually grow in the coastal areas near the seashore. So when they grow near the seashore, in the salty, sandy soils, just in the beach regions. Now these plants, suppose this is a plant, this is the stem of that plant, and these are the roots, that is the dicot plant it is. So these roots which are going in that sandy soils, which is of salty areas, they do not get proper oxygen by respiration. So the plant is not provided with proper oxygen. So to get more oxygen, what it will do is, some of the secondary roots near the soil, they grow above the soil like this. So these roots, they grow above the soil in this way. Actually, roots are positively geotropic, which I have already mentioned. It always grows towards the soil. But here, what exceptionally, to perform modifications, to perform extra functions, it will grow upwards above the soil up to 1 or 2 feet in height. Not very long, only just above the ground, up to 1 feet, 1 foot, or about 2 feet in height. So they will grow, and these roots, when we observe, they are having small pores on its surface. So the roots are of a normal stick size. So when we see this root, suppose this is a root, so there are minute pores on its surface through which air will enter and help in the exchange of the gases and bring about respiration. So the roots which are having minute pores, where it enables or it helps in the exchange of the gases, and thus respiration takes place through these roots. So they are called as respiratory roots, or they are also called as pneumatophores. P is silent, just like pteridophytes. So P is silent. So pneumatophores are roots which are modified for respiration in case of plants growing in the coastal soils, or especially in the beach areas. So near the shores, seashore, there the plants are found. So Rhizophora, Avicennia are such plants. These are commonly present in all beaches. So even for the example, in the nearby, in the Karwar beach, Goa beaches, Mangalore beaches, we find these plants, and we can see such kind of these roots which are growing above the soil around the main stem. So this is the main stem. So around the main stem, the roots which are growing positively, that means negatively geotropic, and helps in respiration. So these are the 4 modifications of the root. So that is about what is root, what are the functions of root, what are the types of root system, and what are the modifications of the root. But in addition to these 4 what I have mentioned, there are still many other modifications, but they are not mentioned in our textbook. But only these 4 modifications are mentioned. So that is why we should know that modifications are many, but what are mentioned in our syllabus, only those we have to follow. So to give just an example, roots also help in reproduction. They help in reproducing, for the reproduction of the plant. That means in some plants what happens, these roots, they will grow downward, the branch of the root, they grow downward and grow into a young plant like this, so that we can separate this and grow into an independent plant. So this is another example of this roots, modification of the root. So the roots, they help in reproduction. So that is about the root. So coming to the next organ, that is the stem. So the stem is a aerial part of the plant. So stem is aerial part of the plant. Here, for example, suppose this is the stem. So the stem is having nodes and internodes. Now sometimes these nodes may not be very clear. So suppose this is the leaf. Take for example. So the region on the stem where the leaf originates is called as node. The place between two nodes is called as internode. This is internode, this is node. So node is the portion on the stem. It is a region on the stem where the leaf originates. The distance between, the space between two nodes is called as internode. Now again the functions of the stem. So this is just simple parts of a stem. The function of the stem is the root which has absorbed the water and minerals which are absorbed by the roots, they are transported to the leaves by the stem. So the stem is an intermediate between a leaf and root. In other words, whatever is absorbed by the root, whatever is absorbed by the root, that is the minerals and the water, all that it is transported or it is taken and given to the, supplied to the leaves where actually the photosynthesis takes place. So this is the function of the stem. Another function is it supports the leaves and branches. It supports the branches and its leaves. Suppose if there is a stem, on the stem there are leaves. So the leaves are to be spread to receive the light for photosynthesis. So the stem helps for spreading of the leaves. It gives a support to the leaves to spread and receive the light properly. And even the branches are also. So that is another function of the stem. So it acts as a transport organ. It transports the water and minerals. It supports the leaves and also branches for spreading to receive the light for photosynthesis. Then so that is stem. So the stem is negatively geotropic and positively phototropic. It grows towards the light and it grows away from the soil. So root is positively geotropic and negatively phototropic. So root grows away from the light, root grows towards the soil, stem grows away from the soil towards the light. So stem is positively phototropic and negatively geotropic, means away from the soil. That is what is stem and the functions of the stem. Now coming to the modifications of the stem. So the next part is modifications. What are the modifications of stem? So there are different modifications of stem. For example, again here also we come across food storage. This is one same as that of the root. Now food storage, so here example, potato. is one typical example. Potato, then even the ginger is an example. So in case of potato, the potato what we eat actually, it is a stem part. So how? Now for example, this is a potato plant. These are the roots. It is a dicot plant, potato. And these are the branches, leaves and all that. That is the shoot system. So these are the roots. Here actually what happens, the lower branches of the potato, here they grow downwards into the soil. They are not roots actually, they are the branches. So these branches grow into the soil like this. So these branches, the tip of the branch will start storing the food material. So due to the storage of the food material, it will swell and become the potato. So this tip of the stem, it will swell and becomes the potato like this. So that means though the potato is underground, it is present in the soil, but it is a part of the stem that we are using. This is that is why the potato is a stem modification. So the carrot, radish what we eat, it is also underground. It is a root modification. The potato what we eat, it is a part of the stem. So it is the stem tuber. And if we see this potato, suppose this is a potato. If we keep the potato for some days, it becomes green and you can see some small bud-like structures here. These are actually nodes of the stem, like this. These are the nodes which contains the bud. So there is a small axillary bud, what we call it as. So this axillary bud gives rise to the young plant. So if you remove this part of the potato and you can grow it to an independent plant. That is, so this is a stem what we are actually eating. They are also commonly called as eyes. So these eyes are nothing but the nodal regions which contain the bud region, and when we keep the potato in a moist place, there it will grow into a young plant. Now this is potato, and even the ginger, sunti athwa alla anta ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. So that thing what we eat, it is actually a stem which is underground. And this stem, suppose this is the stem here. So these things what you see, these are actually the leaves. They are called as the scaly leaves. And there are buds in this region. They grow into a plant, leaves like this. And there are roots like this. So this is also at the stem what we eat. And even the turmeric, arishna. So the arishina kombu anta ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. So the turmeric is also coming under this. So what we use that, it is actually a stem. It is underground, and so that is food storage what we can see in this plant. Then another modification is stem acts as a tendril. So in case of cucumber, we can see this. So in cucumber what happens, the stem gives rise to, suppose this is a stem, and these are the leaves. So cucumber is a climber, isn't it? So in cucumber or even in watermelon and many other climbers you can see. So here the stem gives rise to a coiled structure like this, which helps in climbing. So these thin, coiled, slender structures, they help in the climbing of the plant, is called as a tendril. So here tendril is a modification of the stem. Tendrils may be also the modification of a leaf. So when we study about leaf and their modifications, again we come across the tendril where the leaves are modified. Here the stem is modified into tendril. So even in the cucumber and passion flower, another climber. There also we find the stem gives rise to coiled, spirally coiled, slender and very sensitive structures called as the tendrils. Now these structures, when they come in contact with any object, any hard object like a pole or any other wire or like that, so they will start coiling around them and help the plant to grow further. That is about the tendril. So in this we come across. Then there are what are called as thorns. So thorn is another modification of stem. So thorn is a short, stout, woody structure, pointed structure. So woody, short, stout and pointed structure, that is called as thorn. So in case of bougainvillea, which is a garden plant, so there we find some red, pink and white flowers. So in this plant we find thorns. So thorns are different from spines. Spines are somewhat very thin and very long, where thorns are short and very stout and woody in nature. That is, they are all the modifications. So they help in protection. So in protection, the thorns will help. So that means stem helps in protection. So thorns are present in the plant for their protection, not to harm other animals or other organisms. So to protect themselves, they produce thorns. So here the stem is modified into thorns, and sometimes the leaves are also modified into spines, and they are also for protection. That is one modification. Then leaves also help, stem also helps in photosynthesis. Photosynthetic in function. So there the stem is photosynthetic. For example, in case of cactus, or which is also called as opuntia, the stem becomes flat. Now in cactus or opuntia, there are actually two modifications. Suppose this is the plant. Here we find the spines. So these spines, what we see, which are seen on the surface, they are actually the modifications of leaves. So these spines are modified leaves. So when the leaves are modified into spines and they are not having a photosynthetic function, so that photosynthesis function is performed, is taken over by the stem. That is why the stem becomes flat, green and leaf-like. So this is actually the stem which is modified. So here stem does the function of photosynthesis. Usually the stem does not do photosynthesis, but rarely whenever the stem is young, and that too for a short period, it is usually green in color, or it may perform photosynthesis, but not always. That means only for a short period. But in case of cactus and or opuntia, there the leaves are modified into spines. That is why the function of photosynthesis is taken over by this stem, or by this part of the plant, that is the stem. So there it does in photosynthesis. So this is one modification where the stem does the function of photosynthesis. Then stem also help in vegetative propagation, that means reproduction. In vegetative propagation means reproduction without seed, that is we call as vegetative propagation. Now this is seen in many plants. Now for example, in some grasses we come across this, and even in certain grasses we find, and even in strawberry also we find. In a aquatic plant which is called as pistia, there we find, and in another plant called as chrysanthemum, there also we find such kind of reproduction, that is by the help of stem. Now in case of grass, not all grasses, certain grasses, so there the plant, this is the plant which grows, and here the stem is very short, condensed, it is not long, highly developed. Now this stem which is present, it grows above the soil. Even in a plant called as oxalis we find this. So the stem produces many branches all around, not only on one direction. So if the plant is present in a particular place, it will produce branches in all directions. Now these branches which grow in all directions, and they grow for a short distance, and these branches, the tip of the branch will grow into a young plant like this. That is how the plants are produced. Now later when the young plant is produced at the tip of the young branch, these branches get separated from the parent plant. So that means the stem helps in propagation, the stem helps in reproduction. That is how the stem helps in reproduction. And even in the this is in oxalis, and even in some grass we see. In pistia, there also it is a floating plant, a plant floating on the water surface. There also the stem produces many branches on the water surface in all directions, and these branches are very short and they are very stout. Each branch will give rise to a young plant, and later on it gets separated from the parent plant, and thus it helps in the propagation of the plant. That is in case of this the pistia. And even in strawberry also we come across the same thing. And chrysanthemum, it is somewhat different here. So chrysanthemum, here what happens, the lower branches of the plant, as we seen in the potato, the lower branches they bend and grow into the soil and form potatoes. Here what happens, the lower branches they grow downwards and they grow up like this. So these branches they grow into a young plant and they produce roots and get separated from the parent plant. So this is somewhat different. In case of oxalis, in case of pistia, in case of some grass, usually they grow above the soil surface and they produce new plants at the tip of their new branch. But in case of chrysanthemum, the stem branch grows into the soil and then it comes above after a short distance, and each branch will produce roots as well as leaves and later gets separated from the parent plant. So that is how the stem is modified for various purposes. So in addition to this, there are still many other modifications, but these are some modifications which are mentioned in our syllabus. So that is about the modifications of the stem. Then coming to the leaf and its structure, leaf modifications and certain related aspects of the leaves. Now before that, the leaf as having different parts. First we shall see the parts of a leaf, then we shall go to the modifications of a leaf. So the leaf is a organ which helps in photosynthesis. Now suppose this is the stem, the leaf which originates from the stem. So this is the parts of the leaf. So the leaf where it originates, we call it as the node, and the distance between the space between two nodes is called as internode. And here the leaf is attached to the stem by the help of leaf base. Means the part of the leaf which is attached to the stem is called as leaf base, and this part is called as the petiole, or it is also called as the stalk of the leaf. So stalk of the leaf where it gets attached to the stem, and this green part, the green expanded part of the leaf is called as the lamina, or sometimes it is also called as leaf blade. So the leaf, lamina, petiole. So petiole means that cylindrical part, and this is the green expanded flattened part of the leaf, that is called as the lamina or leaf blade. So this is the leaf margin, leaf tip, and the central line is actually called as the midrib, and these are called as the veins and veinlets. So in the middle part of the leaf lamina there is a thick line which is called as the midrib. The midrib means from the midrib originates the veins and veinlets. So veins are slightly thicker, veinlets are very minute branches. So that is in the leaf lamina. Now the angle between the leaf and stem, this is called as the axil. So this region is called as axil. Now in the axil there is a bud which is called as axillary bud. So this is called as axillary bud, or it is also called as lateral bud. So lateral bud or axillary bud. So this bud is present in the axil of the plant, and hence it is called as axillary bud. So this bud gives rise to a branch, or it may give rise to a flowering branch. It may give rise to a stem branch or flowering branch, any one. That is the petiole, or this is the parts of a leaf. Now sometimes in some leaves, not all, at the near the leaf base, on the stem, actually almost near the leaf base, here there are small leaf-like structures. These are present only in some leaves. They are called as stipules. So stipules are always in pair. They are at the base of the leaf, near the leaf base, usually on the stem, near the petiole, leaf base. There are small leaf-like structures. So these leaf-like structures, they are in pair, they are called as stipules. Stipules are not present in all plants. So if the stipules are present in a leaf or a plant, it is called as a stipulate leaf. If the stipules are absent, it is called as ex-stipulate leaf, means the stipules absent. So usually in the cotton, we find this kind of stipules. In cotton plant, in coffee plant, the stipules are present, so they are called as stipulate leaves. Then about venation. Arrangement of veins in a leaf is called as venation. So the arrangement of leaves is called as venation. So if the veins are branched, it is called as reticulate venation. If the veins are parallel to each other, almost, they are called as parallel venation. So this, what I have drawn is reticulate venation. So in all dicots we find reticulate venation, and in all monocots we find parallel venation. So in parallel venation, what happens? Suppose this is a leaf. You take for example a grass leaf. So the veins are like this. They are not branched. They are almost parallel to the midrib. So these veins, they are not branched. They are parallel to the midrib. See, even in the monocot, the roots are unbranched. When we see the fibrous root system, same way the veins are unbranched and almost parallel to the midrib. So that is called as parallel venation, because they are almost parallel to each other, not exactly. But in reticulate, the word reticulate means it is network, branched. So the midrib gives rise to the veins, and the veins further branch into veinlets. So like that there is a branching system of the veins, and that is called as reticulate venation. So this is about the venation. Now next about the types of leaves, leaf types. Types of leaf. There are two types of leaf, simple leaf and compound leaf. This is one a simple leaf and a compound leaf. So simple leaf means when a leaf is having a single undivided lamina, it is called as simple leaf. The lamina is a single and it is undivided. Suppose this is a lamina. The hibiscus leaf, the mango leaf, all these are leaves which are single lamina and they are not divided. So lamina is not divided. That is called as simple leaf. So hibiscus leaf, mango leaf, then banyan leaf, they are all simple leaves. But there are compound leaves. If the lamina is divided, so lamina is divided into small leaflets, leaf-like structures. They are called as, so the lamina is divided into leaflets. They are called as compound leaves. For example, here again there are two types of compound leaves, pinnately compound and palmately compound. So there are two types of compound leaves, pinnately compound and palmately compound. Suppose this is the leaf. Now in compound leaf what happens? Suppose this is the leaf lamina and this is the midrib. So the lamina is divided into units like this, into small parts, and these units they are leaf-like structures. So like this they become small leaf-like structures like this. So this is the lamina. Actually the lamina has been divided into leaf-like structures or into leaflets. So this is a single leaf. This is the lamina, but the lamina is not entire. The lamina is divided into small leaf-like structures which are called as leaflets. So if these are the leaflets, so the common neem plant, tamarind plant, these plants, they are the example of compound leaf. So if the leaflets are originated or arranged in a rows, here there are two rows, isn't it? So if the leaflets are arranged in rows, it is called as pinnately compound leaf. In the neem and tamarind we find such kind of example. And even coconut also is an example of pinnately compound, though it is very large, so there are leaflets there, so it is pinnately. Palmately compound means when the leaflets are arranged, here also the lamina is divided into leaflets, but the leaflets are not arranged in a row, but they are originated from a single point. For example, so this is the leaflets. So these are the leaflets here, but the leaflets are not in a line, but they are originating from a single point. So from a single point, this is actually the lamina. This is also lamina, but here the leaflets are in a row, but here the leaflets are not in a row, but they are originating from a single point. So such is called as palmately compound. Means just like a palm, the fingers are originating from a single part, isn't it? So that is palmately compound. So this we come across in a tree which is called as silk cotton tree. It is a tree, large tree, where the flowers are large, just like hibiscus, and in each fruit you will find some cotton like mass, and that cotton is somewhat silk like, and hence it is called as silk cotton tree. This is types of leaves, leaf types. So there are mainly two types, simple leaves, compound leaves. Simple means undivided lamina, The hibiscus leaf, the mango leaf, all these are single undivided lamina. But in compound, what happens? The lamina is divided into leaflets which are arranged in rows, or they are originating from a single point. Then the arrangement of the leaves on the stem is again called as phyllotaxy. The arrangement of leaves on the stem is called as phyllotaxy. How the leaves are arranged? There are three types of arrangement. One is called as alternate arrangement, and another one is called as opposite arrangement, and the third one is called as whorled type of arrangement. So there are three types of leaf arrangements, in other words. So this leaf arrangements may be alternate. Suppose this is a stem. At each node there will be a single leaf alternately arranged. Means at one node it will be on one side, and on the next node it will be on the other side. In this node it is on one side. In the next consecutive node it will be on the opposite, means on the other side. Alternate. So in alternate, what happens? A single leaf is present at each node. Only one leaf is present at each node, and hence it is called as alternate. So hibiscus, again it is the example for this. In hibiscus we see this alternate type of arrangement. But in opposite arrangement, what happens? If the here what happens? The leaves are arranged in pairs at each node. Suppose this is one pair like this. So in Calotropis we come across this, and even in guava, Calotropis ekki gida anta ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ, guava, parallel hand. So there in that plant you can see the leaves are arranged in pairs at each node. They are opposite to each other. They are called as opposite arrangement. Whorled means when there are more than two leaves at each node, they are not opposite. There may be 3, 4 or like that. So for example, in the case of Alstonia garden plant, you come across this whorled type of arrangement. So this is whorled type of arrangement. So that is about the leaf arrangement. Now if you come to the modifications of the leaves, so there are certain modifications. So that is phyllotaxy. What is phyllotaxy? The arrangement of leaves on the stem is called as phyllotaxy. There are three types: alternate, opposite, and whorl. And leaf types means simple compound. Then venation means reticulate and parallel. So modifications of the leaves. So there are again different modifications. Here also there is food storage, just like stem and leaves. For example, onion, garlic are examples. So onion and garlic are examples of this food storage. Then after that we shall come to the tendrils, then spines. So in onion what happens? Suppose in onion this is the stem and these are the leaves what we see. So the part of the onion what we eat is this, they are actually the leaves, here are the roots, this is the stem. So these concentrically arranged are the leaves which are green on the top. And similarly in garlic, so that single piece what we remove, that is also a leaf which has become swollen. So here the leaves are modified for food storage. Actually we are the part of that plant which is actually the leaf what we are eating. The stem is highly condensed into a disc-like structure which gives rise to the roots. Now tendrils means already in the stem we have mentioned. Here actually in case of pea plant, in case of sweet pea, so here the plant is pinnately compound like this. These are the leaflets. Here the terminal leaflets, they become tendril to climbing purposes. See, only a part of the leaf, not all the leaflets. So the terminal leaflets become tendrils for climbing. So in stem we had studied in cucumber and in passion flower, the part of the stem has modified into tendril, isn't it? But here the leaves are modified into tendrils for climbing. So like that in different plants, in a gloriosa plant, garden plant, the leaf tip is modified into tendril. So the tip of the leaf like this, so this is modified into tendril, and sometimes the petiole may become tendril. Clematis, a plant, so the petiole becomes very long and become like a tendril and helps in climbing. So that is how the tendril helps in climbing, that is a part of the leaf. And here in the case of spines, again cactus, which we have already mentioned. So in case of cactus, the spines what we see on the surface of the stem, they are actually the modifications of the leaves, which we have already mentioned in the stem modifications. So these are the leaf modifications and these are the stem modifications. And sometimes in a plant which is called as Australian acacia, here the petiole becomes the leaf-like structure. Now this is the pinnately compound leaf in case of Australian acacia. These leaflets, they do not remain for a long time. Still when they are young, when they are in a tender stage, what happens? They fall off. So when these leaflets fall, it becomes a problem for photosynthesis. So which part has to do the photosynthesis? That the question arises. So here what happens? The petiole, this one, it becomes flat leaf-like, but actually this is not lamina, it is a petiole. So when the leaflets fall, when they are young still, they are not completely matured or developed, so the petiole becomes flat and leaf-like, and hence it helps in photosynthesis. Then in case of insectivorous plants, there the leaf helps in catching the insects. For example, which you know that in pitcher plant, the leaf lamina, so the leaf lamina becomes into a pitcher like, this is a petiole and this is the lamina which is having a lid like structure. So this leaf lamina becomes like a pitcher shaped and with a lid. The tip of the lamina itself will extend to form a lid like structure, and these leaves help in trapping the insects. So the insects, when they come and sit on this end, they will close and trap the insects and help they digest that insect. So these insectivorous plants like pitcher plant, Venus flytrap, Drosera or sundew plant, Trichularia, and still many more, Dionia. So these all insectivorous plants, they trap insects and they digest the body of the insects, and thus they trap because they are deficiency of nitrogen. They grow usually in nitrogen deficient soils, and to provide or to get nitrogen. So to get nitrogen, they trap insects, and thus so these are the modifications of the leaf, and that is in addition to this there are still many more modifications, but these are according to our study, and that is we have to know them with the examples. So that is about the leaf modifications. Thank you.